for his dedicated service to the community. Dan was on the board for close to a decade and brought a wealth of knowledge. You probably see Dan's name all over Ulster, Dutchess, the surrounding counties, and is a very successful commercial real estate. So he lent a lot of insight to this board and made us better. So I wanted to thank Dan publicly and let the record show that we appreciate everything he's donated to the town in terms of his insight and cooperation. And I'm sure I'm joined by the members in that recognition.
Absolutely. Dan, we love you.
Thank you, Heidi. And I certainly wish Dan and his family the best in health and prosperity moving into the future. And he deserves it. So that's good. And in the same breath, I want to pause and welcome Mr. Timothy Peck to the Town of Olive Planning Board. I believe he was approved by the town board last night, and I see him there. His name tag says Kelly Peck, but I'm sure he's Tim.
That is correct,
yes. And welcome to the board, Tim. It's nice to have you. And why don't I'll yield the floor to you for a moment, if you don't mind. Maybe a brief introduction would be welcome.
Sure. Thank you very much. Yeah, my name's Tim Peck. I live in Boyceville with my family. We've been here close to 20 years. And I have a software business in Kingston, and my family is in the real estate business here locally as well. But we love the town. We're committed to being here, raise our children here. We still have 3 kids in the school system, plan to be here forever and want to sort of see the best for the town. So I look forward to being a part of this.
Thank you, Tim, and way to make that name change. That's pretty good.
I did that.
So,
Thank you.
Again, welcome to the board. We look forward to leveraging the experience you just spoke about, and you'll only make us better.
Thanks.
So with that, I'll just mention one.
Dave, I can interrupt just one moment. Helene was getting tons of extraneous noise, so I had to mute her. If she can try to figure out what's making noise on her computer or in her area.
Okay.
That would be helpful.
She's quiet now.
I muted her.
I know.
All right.
Unmute yourself if you want to give it another try, Helene.
Hey, Nick.
Oh, hi.
All right.
Seems like Helene may have left the meeting.
All right.
Trying
She's back.
All right. Well, with that, just one piece of business before we kick off the public hearing. We do have to address officers this evening, planning board members, so we'll look to do that at the end of the meeting. Or maybe in between. No, there's only one public hearing. So, okay. So with that, it's 7:10, Tuesday, January 5th, 2021. And I will make a motion that we open up the public hearing comment period for 20 sub 5 Mr. Neil Marks at 90 Black Road, Shokan, New York. This is a 2-lot subdivision of 10.22 acres where Mr. Marks is going to build his home and have a studio within that home. So with that, I'll first ask Steve Dibble, did I miss anything? And if not, if you want to open it to the floor.
No, let's open it up.
I'm just officially going to recuse myself and step away. Let that just be on the record. Have
Thank you,
fun.
Heidi.
Yep.
And if someone from the public, maybe, I don't know, Victoria or someone or maybe Samantha, if you could just unmute yourself and just make sure that we can hear you, if you can unmute yourself.
Can you hear me?
I can hear Victoria
Okay, good.
How about me?
and Samantha, thank you. I just want to make sure we have a sound check.
Of course, thank you.
So, Mr.
Can you
Marks
hear
or
me?
Heidi, since you've recused yourself, I don't know if you want to speak to the plat itself or, and then the public can ask questions, please. I don't know if Mr. Marks, you want to take the lead on that?
And what would you like me to do? I'm sorry, say it again.
If you just want to give a brief narrative on your project.
It's just a house with a studio. That's basically it. There is no more museum. I'm coming in on Black Road and I don't know what else to say.
That works. Thank you. So are there any questions or comments from the folks in the attendance? And you do have to unmute yourself.
Are you the one with the map?
Yes, I have a question.
Helene, we have a more recent map, so I don't know.
This, I believe, is the Board of Health approval for the septic. That's why it's still showing the museum. I think what Helene had up was what came from the Board of the Health.
Okay, hang on.
So,
No
Give me a
problem.
second. Give me a second.
Yeah, no problem. So Ms. Schetzel, you can certainly get your question off while Helene gets the map up.
I have questions on the diagram, the survey from Brenner and Larios. I don't understand why that road is 21 feet wide. It's like a two-lane highway. I talked to Heidi Emmerich today. She said that's because there has to be enough room for a fire truck to get safely down that incline. However, a fire truck can go down my driveway, and I have a normal size width, and it goes up and down High Point Mountain Road, which is only 17.5 feet. So I don't understand the rationale for that width. I went up to the property today, and it's difficult to see how that's going to work. There's a steep incline, and it looks like I don't know, it looks like if there's any mistake on that road, people that are on Dogwood Lane are in jeopardy in terms of, it seems like that road is so close, would be so close to the stone wall, the concern. And I don't know, is there a berm? Is there a variance? I don't understand the rationale.
So your concern is the width of the proposed driveway being 21 feet, correct?
Where is that on the plan?
The right of way is only, I mean, the width,
It says 25.
yeah, the right of way is 25.
Well,
Right,
no,
the right of way, but the road
that's
itself,
That's not a right of way. That's
that's
a
not right of way, that's his
that's a
property.
strip of land that goes with the rear lot.
Right.
Within that 25 feet, the driveway looks to be about 12 feet wide to me, but
I don't know. I don't understand what the diagram is saying.
so maybe I can help Ms. Schetzel. So as Ed Cahill just said, the two dark lines, and Helene, if you can just move your mouse left to right, that's a strip of land, AKA a flag lot, right? So that's a flag lot, and that's a strip of land. And then the proposed driveway are the two dotted parallel lines, horizontal. So that'll be something materially less than 25 feet. And as Ed Cahill surmised, maybe about 12 feet, right, in terms of proportion.
Okay.
And that, yes. May I ask another question about that?
Sure.
Is there a reason that the road had to abut those houses on that side instead of going on the other side where there's DEP property and no interference from neighbors?
Way too steep, crazy steep.
It's very steep on the side as well, on the side that,
No. What this is, it's, if you see the grade, it's down on the bottom of this page, it's 7%. Keep going down, that's it. So it's the grade is 7%.
that doesn't tell me anything.
The other side
Well,
is way too steep. You can't, it's over 12%.
And there was no way to come that studio from the other property where you
No,
already.
there really is no other way.
And you have you own the property where there is already an existing house, is that right?
Yes,
And so you're building another house and a studio,
yes.
and you're gonna live in both places?
No, I plan on selling the house I'm in now.
Oh, I see. So you're gonna have your studio and your house where that new road is coming in.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
is there any concern in terms of that roadway about runoff when it
Yeah,
rains?
we do. We have concern. We are the Chance family.
Right now, I'm wondering, I'm asking Mr. Martz, has that been discussed? I mean, is that,
Yes, yes. In fact, when they came out, they looked, and there is no runoff really. It's a little tiny culvert pipe near the road. That's it. But there really is no major runoff.
I don't know.
But it was, Neil, just to kind of supplement that, it was recommended at one point that a culvert be put in underneath the driveway to direct the runoff, right?
Yes.
Is that going to happen? The
Sorry.
reason I ask is that we had a situation here on High Point Mountain Road where trees were clear cut and on a property which is a homeowner's right to do, but that clear cutting flooded properties adjacent, and it created a problem. So I'm not saying that this will happen, but I'm just wondering if that's if that kind of thing is being taken into consideration here, given the fact that you have Chan, Covello, and Carmela, Mary Power.
Right. The road that I'm putting in has nothing to do with any kind of major runoff. Nothing whatsoever. The major runoff, if you look on the map past the house I'm going to build, that's the major thoroughfare of the water. Other than that, there really is. Steve saw the road. There is the runoff you're talking about is negligible. Besides, it's there. All I'm doing is making the road over it and putting a culvert pipe there. I am not changing any water course. The water that runs there is the same water that's going to run there forever.
So the road is not going to interrupt the natural flow of whatever water or dampness that is already.
It won't hurt it one iota.
And that studio is a private studio. Are you giving classes? Or I know there was the reason I'm asking, there was controversy about having a museum and a studio gallery.
Right. There is no gallery. There is no museum. Nobody wants it. Forget it. I'm just doing it my home and a studio like I have now. That's all.
And that would be your bronzes? Is that what you're doing? Or is that
bronze now?
You don't work in bronze?
No, I work in bronze now. Yes.
And do you fabricate there, or do you fabricate at a place or places like Talix or? I'm
Yes.
just-
I don't pour bronze. No, I don't pour bronze. I finish it off, but I don't pour it. No.
Okay, those are the questions I had. It was hard to see exactly what was going on because the property, it's private property, one can't really walk it. So I was just curious. Thank you.
You're welcome. And just as a footnote, the superintendent of highways for the town of Olive, Mr. Brian Burns, has been to the site, and obviously Mr. Martz had to get a driveway permit, and that's proposed and approved with the recommendations.
Okay, thank you.
And I'd like to just interrupt briefly. If the person who just came on as user, if you could enter a name, we'd appreciate it. Not required, but.
My name is Florence Schetzel.
No, somebody just joined the call with a name of user.
If you're unsure how to change it, you can just chat to me as well, and I'll change it.
Okay, so is there anyone else in attendance who would like to ask a question of Mr. Martz or the board?
Hello?
Yes, hello?
Yes, this is the change.
This
Yes.
is the Chen. We have a problem with the driveway. As that lady said, it's no runoff. I'm sure that will be runoff. And they're too close to our home. And anything could happen. And it is a steep driveway. And also on the map, the driveway seemed like extended to all the way to the end of my property between Covello and the Chance before he turned to left to his property.
Yes, That's right where the cursor is. Is there a question?
No, he was saying it's turn at the stone wall. This will be passed through my whole front lawn, as the map stated.
I apologize, board. I'm not tracking, but the proposed driveway is on Mr. Martz's land.
Yeah, it's on his side,
That's
but
correct.
he's
They can-
running right along the border to our property, right?
They
That's
are
what my
concerned.
point. So the map, I don't know what the intent ultimately for Mr. Martz to make the turn, right? But you know, all along our objective to this proposal is it is too close to our house. Besides the safety, it is really kind of a obtrusive thing, right? Lights, noise, pollution going right next to our house. From a safety point of view, I mean, you got these trucks coming down that slope in winter, and the road itself could collect water. I don't know how well the Mr. Martz's plan is, or maybe the town have the engineer look at it. If the water is kind of collect by the road, you can ice up easily, and it's very unsafe. Car coming down the slope, lose control, can plow right into my house. So those are our concerns. I mean, this road got to be constructed very, if ever, it got to be engineered properly.
I mean, it's not just a normal driveway. It's going down the slope. I'm sure there's heavy trucks coming down this way too.
Right, oil truck and all this thing is a dangerous situation. Common sense, I guess. Think about it. Think about the driveway going so close to your own house, and you'll appreciate that.
I would like to just state that I appreciate your being concerned over how close it is to your home. Zoning does at this point allow that. I
Well,
believe.
I'm not sure. I go challenge that because you have the authority to oversee implementation to guarantee the safety, the welfare of the neighbor. Now, if you can allow this to do it to one person, like our the chance, right? They set this as a precedent. Anybody can do the same thing to anybody property, right? You can actually, somebody can buy some property behind a row of house, and they can build a road there and then screw up everybody.
Well, I guess I would like to state that part of the reason for zoning is not only to protect the neighbors, but also to protect the rights of the property owner. So property owners do have the right to do things with their own property. And
well, I guess you are the arbitrator, right?
Well,
we both have right. We have the right to preserve the characteristic of our property, because when we first purchased this property, it's a dead end, and Dogwood Drive end right at our property, and there was no house and behind that. Now, given that, yeah, Mr. Martz somehow got the chance to buy those property, and he implement thing, and the whole thing is, this is a residential area in rural area. House got to have enough buffer around the house, right? If you have trucks and all those traffic that support like the new structure, it got to have some buffers. Usually it's in the front, the street frontage. So there's no menace to the residents. But in this case, somebody just bring a road with those are commercial traffic right next to somebody else residence. Now is the board's, I think is your
responsibility
to ensure things are implemented properly. I mean, Mr. Martz, he keeps saying that he can do whatever he wants. I guess in a civil society, it's more than that.
I
mean,
have never, ever said that.
Yeah, I don't know where that came from, but the net of it is he can't do anything he wants. He has to abide
Well,
by the
actually,
same
you said
rules.
that.
He has to abide by the same rules that all of us do in the town of Olive. And we're here to see that that happens. In terms of much of what you're concerned about, it really will be up to the building department, highway department to make sure that things are implemented as they were planned. And that the driveway, in fact, is up to par and suitable for things like we talked about earlier, a fire truck to be able to have ingress and access to the home. And as you know, Mr. Chan, I was there and visited. the
Yeah, I know.
And again, I understand your concern about how close the driveway is to your home. Unfortunately, when your home was built was pre-zoning, so you didn't have the setbacks that are required today, and your home is close to the property line.
Well, it is not just.
I do have to say, from my point of view, the slope on that driveway is not excessive. And the slope does not direct to any vehicles that would be, I'll say, sliding down the driveway in the event of a snowstorm toward your home or your property, but alongside that stone wall, so.
Actually, Steve, you're the one told us he can do whatever he want at the first meeting in March. You're the one told me that.
I don't believe that's correct.
Well,
Right.
it is in a minute, but anyway, that's besides the point. You say, yeah, it's really got to consider. I guess Mr. Marsky kind of got his mind made up. I don't know whether there's still something he can do better. I mean, as common sense tell you, you have a road coming down a slope. You can say that it's not steep. You can see on a bad weather, cars go slip and slide. You know, you cannot dispute even a very low grade, say it's a 6 degree, 5 degree, it slide.
Well, actually, we need to see the new map too. This is an old map, so it doesn't really serve the purpose.
Well, so let me just make another comment here. We obviously have not voted. We haven't gone to take a vote or approve or disapprove this. But if it were to be approved, I would suggest that you work with Neil and see what you can work out to ensure that that boundary between your property and his driveway is well defined and would deflect any vehicles that might possibly come off the road for whatever reason, and perhaps also discuss some sort of privacy screening that could be put in place along the driveway to shield your home from the vehicle, from the traffic.
So at this point, did you have your engineering department look at this and say it is safe enough?
The highway superintendent, Brian Burns, has been to the site. And Mr. March, has he issued you a driveway permit or is it in process?
No, I think you have it in your papers. You should have it in your papers.
Okay.
He sent. the
So
letter.
he approved that?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm really amazed that they can be approved. So without condition of what? You got to have something to enforce that this road is, even as allowed, should be built to some quality standards. I mean, you just.
Yeah, I'm sure Mr. Burns has provided parameters by which the driveway has to be built in terms of dimensions, material, et cetera. Again, the highway superintendent is the subject matter expert. We are not in terms of the driveway, but the client, Mr. Martz, has met, as Steve has pointed out, the zoning requirements within this flag lot. So he meets the access to the road, and he also meets the, if you will, the width of the driveway.
Okay.
How about separation? Is there any rule about separation in
That's the
area?
That's the set. Well, I don't know what you mean by a special area, but again, as Steve noted, you know, you built during a time of, you know, let's just call it pre-existing non-conforming conditions. Mr. Martz is now being subject to the conditions and the regulations that exist today, and he is meeting those criteria. So your question, Mr. Martz is meeting his obligation of building the road, and as Stephen just pointed out, based upon his visit, any type of privacy or any mitigation, I don't want to speak for Mr. Martz, but from what I know of Mr. Martz, he seems to be collaborative and willing to, have good neighbors. So, I don't think he's,
We do.
I don't think he's purposefully creating harm here. As he articulated early on, within this property, this is the ideal and probably most reasonable way to build a driveway to access so he can build his new home.
That's not true statement.
Okay.
Initially, let me speak. Initially, even in his statement, he's saying that the driving coming down this way is
Too steep.
too steep. And he's originally proposed to do buy the property from Mr. Covello and do the access from Brett Maple. I appreciate his consideration at that time. But now he said, since there's no museum, he's not going to put up the expense to buy that lot. And he go back to this original assessment. He himself think that is not a good access.
There's lights every time the car pass by, that will be light shine inside my house.
Yep, so I would say that that's not really a zoning issue, if you will. That's something that this board would adjudicate. I don't know if Mr. Martz wants to respond, I'll leave it up to him in terms of economics or whatever led to that decision. But I just want to reinforce, as you stated, Mr. Chan, the health, welfare, and sustainability of the community and the character is our charge, as well as preserving the rights of the landowner and the landowners around. And I feel as co-chair of this board that Mr. Martz is meeting that litmus tests, but I can't speak to why his decision-making is what it is.
Okay, so
can we speak, say what right do you think we have as a neighbor? If a neighbor decide to do something to endanger our welfare, our safety, and whatever else, right? The environment, the characteristic, the setting, the value of the property. I mean, what right do we have?
Well, you certainly have rights. I guess I have to rely on our subject matter experts and our elected officials, i.e. Mr. Brian Burns, our supervisor or superintendent of highways. If he's issued and approved a driveway permit, I have to believe that Mr. Brian Burns takes the safety of everyone involved very seriously and probably is his number one charge. And if he's willing to approve a driveway, I have to believe that in his professional assessment that the driveway is safe. But you absolutely have every right to ensure the safety of your family as well. And I would think Mr. Burns would not make a decision in haste to put anyone at risk.
I just don't feel safe, that's all.
Okay, so when is Mr. Mike going to show a new map? Because this map is not exactly where he's going to put the driveway.
This is the map.
Yeah, I thought this was the map.
Yeah.
Okay, so right here, you extend it all the way in between my lot and Dominic Carvello's lot. That's the driveway.
Yes, ma'am.
But you said you're right by the stone wall, you turn.
As indicated on the, yes.
That stone wall is right here. Right before that, yeah, that's a stone wall.
There's multiple stone walls, and it looks like the driveway runs along the stone wall for a considerable distance. So I guess I'm not.
This is the one off to the left. The one to the left, the stone wall.
Yeah.
We've got to make sure he got the property line correct. I mean, I think there's a little, even the map in there, there's few places is not quite true, right? I mean, even the map in the county, there's some measurements and things.
I was done by professional engineers, so I have to believe that there's a reasonably good probability that it's accurate.
Well, if we have a chance to really face to face and discuss this on a map.
Yeah, the map is not exactly what he intends to do.
Well, if you,
So,
if you wish to challenge the map, I would suggest, I think the only way of going about that is you would probably have to solicit your own engineer and present facts. And matter of fact, we just had a project in front of us where that was a case.
well, this
Okay.
is
But
not
I mean,
a right map because this.
With all due respect, we can't just accept anecdotal evidence that the map isn't accurate and, you know,
I understand. Well, we go, when we read what challenge, I think you got to have well, either from the county or we got to have a engineer to map it.
okay.
But I just want to point out, so just let you know,
Do you have a survey map?
not at this point.
Okay.
And let us be clear
There's
that
some way back, I mean,
not determine boundary lines. It's surveyors that determine boundary lines if you're worried about that. So
Sorry, what was that, Nicholas?
surveyors determine boundary lines, not engineers. You know, I think.
Yeah.
So
This is true.
yes.
yeah, it's a survey company, right? They're not
Yeah.
engineering company.
Okay,
So I just want to make sure besides the safety concern, is there anything? Well, basically, I mean, the board's mission is really try to protect the community. Now, although now it seems to be one by one, right? The Chan versus Mrs. Martz. But by extension, you know, this kind of thing can happen to, if somebody come along, it can affect the whole community. I mean, if they do similar thing, you set this as a precedent. Now, usually this, I think, this is very, very odd, right? I mean, you seldom see people do these kind of things. You know,
That's not
put
really
the road
true.
right next to a neighbor, right?
That's
because
not,
this
that's,
is, because when
that-
Mr. Mart bought this 10 lot, there's a landlock, actually just from the front. If he just try to subdivide, there's no place to go in. So he had to do it on the edge of our property
I
and
don't
his
know
property.
legally what that implies. He bought that lot, he says street frontage is Black Road. If somebody can buy a lot and then all of a sudden decide to subdivide it without proper street frontage. Now, this is the judgment call for you guys.
well, let me just state in response to your one comment that the creation of what we call a flag lot is not at all unusual. It's done all the time. And so I understand that your real concern is the placement of this driveway, but from the standpoint of doing what Mr. Martz is doing and creating a flag lot, that's not unusual.
I would think it is not unusual.
It is
I mean,
not,
it is unusual.
it is not unusual, not at all. We
Especially in a
have
discussion about-
situations, there are
This is
situations
not
where
in
they,
a town or a city, right? This is a rural residential area. Everybody build homes, not business. There are family activities. People go home for as a refuge. You don't want people to bring traffic right next to your house. I mean, you think it is right for somebody to do that, to set a precedence? I think there's going to be a lot of people not going to be happy about that.
I would suggest that it may not be of help to you now, but if you're concerned about essentially how the zoning is written and what it allows with regard to driveways and property subdivisions, that you provide feedback to the zoning committee, and they will consider it for future inclusion in the zoning.
Okay, we can change it, huh?
Yeah, I
Well,
mean, the zoning law is not very detailed on some these situations, right? This may seem to be unique, but I think in general, in a rural residential area, how would you imagine somebody can put a road right next to your house? I can't imagine it.
not to be argumentative, Mr. Chan, but in my 13 years on this board, as Steve noted, it happens more frequently than you would think in the town of Olive for a variety of reasons. But that's not to dismiss your sensitivities to this situation. We're doing our best to, you know, stay compliant to the zoning, while at the same time respecting everyone's viewpoints. So with that, are there any other comments from anyone in the public?
I have, Dave, I have one more quick question. Mr. Chan keeps mentioning trucks that will be going down this road. This is not a commercial entity here. It's his private studio, right? I don't know what
Yes,
truck.
there is.
Trucks,
I
fire
think,
truck, oil truck,
and I
septic
think
truck.
Mr. Chan is
delivery
referencing,
trucks.
yeah,
I mean-
the construction, and then the periodic, you know, as he just mentioned, fuel delivery.
Oh, all right. I was-
Yes.
And during construction, and what kind of disturbance it may create? I mean, you haven't even discussed that. I mean, if you construct your site and you have access, it won't disturb your neighbor, is one thing. But you build this access road right next to the neighbor. I don't know how long it's construction, 1 or 2 years. I'm gonna put up with all this construction traffic and all the debris and all whatever you can imagine, right? I just wish you folks can actually put yourself in the situation, right? You know, think about a road like that right next to you. It's not a flat road. It's a pretty steep road coming down.
Yeah, it's not our word. Even Mr. Mott said that himself on a very steep hill.
I mean, he's sensitive to that too. For that, I appreciate that. But now because his financial consideration, he decided still stick to this undesirable implementation.
And just to reiterate, and Ms. Shechel, to your question, the scope of the structure will be the same as it is today. It's a residential home with a studio for Mr. Martz.
Thank you.
May I ask who Miss Satchel is? Who she represent?
Another Olive resident?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. A concerned residents, right?
Yeah.
Who frequents our meetings, so she's a fan.
Oh, okay, all right. I applaud that.
I love you guys.
So just in the interest of time, and please, Mr. and Mrs. Chan, please don't read into this, but I just ask if there's any other questions or comments regarding Mr. Martz, 90 Black Road, 20 sub 5. If there aren't, I would make a motion that we close the open comment period of the public hearing. But again, if anyone wants to take themselves off mute and state who they are and ask a question.
Really, my plea to you folks is really considering families and homes, which is this residential area. Most of the folk come here just because they want to relax after work, spend time with family safely, and also. So if something like that can happen to any of them, I think something is violated. So, I mean, you decide, but I guess if you cannot decide now, you can should put this in the forefront in the deliberating cases like this.
Mr. and Mrs. Chan, your pleas are heard and will be absolutely considered in the further discussions around this project. And I believe firmly that Mr. Martz wants to make this as, as amicable to all parties. So with that, are there any more comments or questions? Okay, so I'll make a motion as of 7:46 on Tuesday, January 5th, that we close the open comment period of the public hearing. Can I get a second?
I second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any opposed? Thank you. Okay, folks, so
So what is this vote for?
that is just to close the open comment period, Mr. Chan. So
Okay.
as I was just going to say, so the board, I'd like to take a few minutes and discuss this this project, given what we've heard from the public, and have some open discourse. I've got a few ideas I'd like to share with my fellow board members, but I certainly yield to Stephen first if he has any comments, as well as the rest of the board.
Yes, I'd like to hear what others think.
I visited the site and walked it pretty thoroughly, and it looks like a building lot to me. So I think we ought to move forward with, I don't remember if we did the checklist now or not, and the EAF form, but I propose we move forward and vote on it tonight. I think the applicant has done everything necessary according to our regulations. He got his septic approval, he's got driveway approval, he's got everything on paper that we require, so I don't see any reason to hold him up any longer.
Helene, Nicholas, I know Heidi, you're recusing yourself. Tim, I won't put you on the spot,
I
but
feel
certainly
too-
you're free to comment.
I feel too that if the driveway was already inspected and cared for by Brian Burns, that he would know what would be a good driveway, would be a driveway that would hurt somebody. So I agree with Ed that we should go forward with it.
I understand the Chan's, reservations, pretty sure I wouldn't want to drive it that close to my house either, but it's also Mr. Martz's property. And if Mr. Burns, approved the driveway and also, I believe Bernier and Larios also did a profile of it as well. I think we should move along as well.
Any other board members want to make a comment?
I'll just say that the sentiments echoed by Ed, Helene, and Nicholas are really right along the same lines of my thinking. So I also visited the site. I agree there's a slope there. I don't believe it's outrageous. And that's backed up by the engineer's slope chart on the plat.
I think it's also important to also say that it is going to be a private home. He may have a studio there, but it's a private home. It's not a business. It's not where lots and lots of traffic is going to be going back and forth.
Yeah.
So I think that needs to be really emphasized in this case.
Alexa, turn on office.
So can we ask one more question? Is the board going to, sorry?
Hang on, Mr. Chan, if you would, please, if you just let the board speak, because the public hearing comment period is.
Okay, can you give me a chance to speak afterward?
I will.
Just ask a question.
Yep. Helene, I'm sorry. Do you want to complete?
I was saying that I think that it should be emphasized that what is being built is a private home. It may have an art studio in it, but it's a private home. There's not going to be it should not be a lot of traffic. I would guess it'd be a lot of traffic. So I mean, every home, even Mr. Chan and Mr. and Mrs. Chan's home had to have construction. But I can't imagine since it's a private home, where that would have so much traffic that it would be such an interference for them.
Right, and I think, Helene, to your point, right, so when we go over the seeker, the State Environmental Quality Review document or act, that'll call those out. So I would tend to agree with you, Helene, for sure, or more than 10. The only thought I have, board, is just taking a pause. Are there any conditions that we may want to propose that could potentially address some of the concerns? Like, I was just thinking of one, but I don't even know if it's a good one. Like, like the delivery of oil, like would the truck not go all the way up the driveway and use the length of the hose or something like that? But I don't know.
That's not practical.
Yeah, okay. But is there anything like that Ed or anyone else that we think would be practical or something we should think about?
Well, our question, the chance you allow me to speak. So,
Mr. Chan, we will, but if you could please just respect the process and let the board speak now that the public hearing comment period has been suspended. I commit to you, I'll let you speak, but I'd like to have this dialogue amongst the board.
well, I just want to address your points, though.
So, Mr. Chan, I've said it 3 times now, so if we could just mute Mr. Chan for the moment, and then when we can open it back up. I really want to stick to the process. It's important. So are there any practical suggestions or anything? Do we want to say maybe a fence or anything like that?
I don't think we can require that. I mean, that's something that the neighbors want to work out on their own, they can do it, but we can't require that.
Okay, thanks, Ed. And Tim, I'm trying to unmute you. Did that work?
Yes, it did. Thank you.
You're welcome. Tim, did you want to say something or just, sorry?
Actually, it was funny. I was going to say, can we say, again, and I'm not sure of the regulations yet, but to me, it does make sense that that the homeowner there, Mr. March, should put some sort of privacy fence or be obligated to assist in that way to kind of smooth the project along. But it sounds like we can't say that. So
I think that Mr. March is, and I don't want to speak for him, so Neil, please jump in if I'm off base, but I believe you've expressed a willingness to entertain that and work with the Chans on some,
Yes,
asking-
first of all, it's not really versus. If I could build it on the other side, I would have. My plans change. I can't buy Dominic's land right now. It's really too expensive. I hope he's better, by the way. And I can't even move that road too much because you need an area for the next septic system. So I'm really locked into this flag plot the way it is. Where I live now, you need a reserve spot for the septic system. So that's where the extra, I can't change it too much. It has to be the flag lot, if that makes any sense. Can't show you without pointing. But I need a reserve area for you need a reserve, how do you say it?
We understand, a reserve area.
Reserve area.
You're right.
That's why I can't change the road too much. I can't change the road. It has to be like this. I'm sorry for the Chans. If they really want to pay half, I'll pay half if they pay half. And if they want to put up some fencing, it's only 6 feet, but if they want to do it, I'll pay half.
I think it's very, very, generous.
Stands close to the house. I can't do anything about it. I tried to do it with Nick Cavello's land. It just, I can't do it now. I have to do this. I can't afford Dominic's land.
Okay. And Mr. Chan and Mr. and Mrs. Chan, I've unmuted you if you want to speak now.
Okay.
We can hear you.
Okay, so I guess during construction of this road, would the town have the town engineer oversees that?
Are they going to be inspected afterward?
Because still building a road like that, if you are doing not properly or you're going to spare some expenses and things can go wrong. I mean, I wish you could have the town engineer oversees that.
So So I'm sorry, Stephen. So Mr.
I would just, go ahead.
No, please.
Okay, I was just going to say that would be under the purview of the building department and the highway department. And I would suggest that you contact them to understand what oversight they might have over the building of the driveway.
Yep. And I was going to say, Mr. and Mrs. Chan, on your behalf, we did proactively reach out to the highway department. They are keenly aware of the sensitivity around this. And, they didn't take it lightly. So I would think Mr. Burns would welcome a dialogue with you so that he could reassure you that the driveway, poses no harm if built properly.
All right, we'll contact him. So I will make sure even go ahead, things should be done properly because doing a project like that, a lot of things can go wrong. I mean, if nobody oversees that.
Well, also, this should be lighting on the driveway too. Lighting on the driveway too. Because in some some stranger come in
Yeah,
and they're not familiar with the road, they can just punch right into my house.
I think that's a double-edged sword. Do you want lights shining in your house all the time?
No, I mean the reflector or whatever. Whatever, you have to guide people who
Yeah,
go
all
through the
those-
driveway.
the implementation detail, right? A lot of things can if you don't do it properly, can have serious consequences. I mean, you live where I am, you know, I mean, first of all, the light shining in the house is not a pleasant thing. Every morning I see Mr. Mart, I don't know whether I love him or I hate him, right?
Hate's a strong word, Mr. Chan.
I hope not get to that point.
I think you're gonna find out it's not gonna be much of anything at all once it's done.
Well, it's done properly, right?
Yeah, but
Right.
Mr. Mott has some, he said he will hire somebody. He gonna have employee, not annually, but part-time employee coming into his studio too. So that could be stranger.
No different than somebody that hires somebody to come clean their house, in my view.
Mhm.
I agree.
I would concur, Steve.
Yeah.
Okay,
All right,
Mr. and Mrs. Chan, I wanted to afford you that time to speak. Are you good at this point?
okay. So we would like to see the minutes, right?
They are public record. They are posted to, not only the minutes, but this actual Zoom session is posted by board member David Ettinger to the Town of Olive website. So you're able to see this in its entirety.
So basically tonight you approve this project,
We haven't yet, but we're gonna move towards that, to
okay?
the vote, to the resolution.
And when will that
The
be?
future. I can do a lot of things, but not predict the future.
Should
Okay.
be as soon as we close the session. We end the discussion.
Okay. Board, is there anything further we need to discuss at this point before we move on to some of the administrative process?
I don't think so.
Nothing from me.
Nothing for me.
Nothing here.
Okay. Well, why don't we move to the checklist? Okay, so Helene, if you can just bring up the map again,
I will, yeah,
please. Sorry.
yes, that's okay.
Okay, so do we have the location of the portion which is to be adjusted or subdivided in relation to the entire tract? So we want to see the adjacent landowners, roads, utilities, things of that nature.
Yes,
We got it.
Okay. Topographic conditions, so we not only have the contour lines, but then we also have the driveway grade as well to kind of
Yes.
all that out, so that those are proper.
yes.
We obviously had the list of names of addresses, right, Janelle? So that's how we got to the public hearing.
Correct.
Do we have 2 signature lines for sign off?
Yes, we do up here.
Okay. Utility streets, septics, primary, secondary, as Mr. Marks was speaking to, more so on the new lot, if you will, the proposed. not-
Oh, yeah.
See, yeah.
Yes.
How about the culvert on the driveway? We were talking about that, but it actually looks like now that's actually a stone wall, but is the culvert in the same area, Steve? Is that what?
I'll ask Neil to comment on.
No, the culvert is up maybe 100 feet from from Black Road. And the culvert, I don't think has to be more than, what did the, I forgot his name, but he said it has to be elongated now instead of round, but I think it's a small one. It's not major water.
Right, Brian Burns, you're
Major
referring
water.
to?
It's a little runoff. It really is. It really is a little runoff.
Okay. Board, do we need to have that called out, the culvert, or?
I think we could potentially ask that it be added before,
It's nothing,
or
guys. It really is nothing.
make it a condition on the approval.
Yeah, I would think just given the dialogue, I mean, the board we can vote on it, but I just think given the dialogue and again, the sensitivities, we should probably call it out.
Yeah.
I agree.
Okay, tax map sheet, block and lot numbers. Utilities, streets, proposed maps, so obviously the driveways there.
Can I just add, this might have been, Neil, I'm guessing that your electric's gonna be run underground along the driveway?
Probably. I'll talk to the electric company, what they say is
Yeah.
best. I prefer it underground, yes. Probably not towards the Chan side, probably towards the opposite side.
All right.
Okay, thanks, Nicholas. And then the lot width, depth, street layout, recreation areas, septic, we already talked about. We've got the Board of Health approval. Any existing easements, covenants, zoning?
Nope.
Okay. And then we have the licensed surveyor's signature, date, and seal.
Right here.
Okay. And then we have a North Point.
Right here.
Okay. All right. Well, that's it for the checklist.
Okay.
So why don't we get into seeker? Janelle, you have part one, correct?
Yes.
Janelle, do you have, Helene, do you have a copy of that?
Yes, I sent it.
Okay.
Sorry, Helene, to cut you off guard. I'll start section 2 and then we can get into that.
It was part of, I thought I saw it there when you had your,
Okay.
There it is.
Whoop.
Fourth line down.
Nope, that's not, sorry.
Oh, Ed was seeing it in your, in the table there of your documents. It was a fourth one down.
The file list.
March short EAF updated.
it's on like on the bottom, actually, of what I'm looking at. It says sent yesterday. It's part, no, is that the newest one? No, that's the older one.
Oh,
My goodness.
The very bottom, it says Martz Neal. Yeah, that letter to PB revised. Yes.
there you go.
You know, Helene, I'm gonna have to cut your pay.
I know. I have so many duplicates of everything, the old one, the new one.
So I would just say, you know, board, let's just think about these, you know, given the conversation and the feedback from the community, you know, specifically the Chans, as we go through part 2, yeah? So, and certainly in part 1, you know, if upon your review, you see anything we need to call out. But in part 2 specifically, you know, will the proposed action create a material conflict with an adopted land use plan or zoning regulations? I would say no or small impact may occur. Does the board concur?
Yes.
Will the proposed action result in a change in the use or intensity of use of land? I mean, today it doesn't have a home on it. It's going to have a home, but I don't see that in terms of a change in, you know, intensity of use of the land. I mean, it's going to have a home on it with, you know, expected, you know, residential activity.
Yeah,
I would put that in the category of no or small impact. Does the board agree?
correct.
Yes.
Yes.
Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of the existing community? And this is certainly a point that the Chans have called out. You know, we're in a time now of change, and then we have some of our community that was created pre-zoning, and we have some of our community that is now created post-zoning, and inherently there's conflict, and you know, we're doing the best we can. So I would say, you know, given this, it doesn't impair the character or quality of the existing community. Certainly, as I've stated, you know, Mr. Burns is doing his best with respect to the driveway to ensure the safety of everyone involved. And I don't see this as affecting the character and quality of existing community / neighborhood. It's another home, and it's change, and change has amplifications. But I don't see it as being a material impact to the seeker. So I would say no or small. So does the board concur, or is there another comment?
No, I agree.
I
I
agree.
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 Okay. Will the proposed action have an impact on the environmental characteristics that cause the establishment of a critical environmental area? That is a no. There's nothing taking place that would do that. Will the proposed action result in an adverse change in the existing level of traffic or affect existing infrastructure for mass transit, biking, or walkway? I think that question's been asked. This is going to be a residential home with a studio. There could periodically be a temporary assistant or help, but that does not create an adverse condition. So again, that would be a no impact may occur. Does the board concur?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then in terms of use of energy, utilities, no adverse impact, in my humble opinion.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. My screen just went blank.
Oh, no.
So will the proposed action impact existing private water supplies, public-private water waste treatment utilities? So Mr. Martz has secured Board of Health approval. So obviously the Board of Health feels that his impact in terms of having a local sewage system is acceptable. And in terms of him drilling a well to provide water to his new home, I think there's living on a mountain. I'm sure he's fine there. So I also see no impact in those two areas on item number 7, part 2. Does the board concur?
Agreed.
Okay, so I'll go through the last few. Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of important historic, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources? Will the proposed action result in adverse change to natural resources, i.e. wetlands, water bodies, groundwater, air quality, flora, or fauna? And then finally, will the proposed action result in an increase in erosion, flooding, or drainage, and/or introduce a hazard to environmental resources or human health? So across those 4 items, I put up 5 fingers, I would say no material adverse impact, that this is a residential home in a residential area with a studio. So I would also put those as no or small impact may occur. So if the board agrees, I would say that going through part 2 of the seeker and those 11 data points, that our determination of significance is that this is a negative declaration by the Town of Olive Planning Board made on Tuesday, January 5th.
Agreed.
Agree.
Agree.
So with that, that's the seeker for 20 sub 5 March. So the last piece of business with regards to 20 sub 5 is the planning board resolution. So project number 20 sub 5 March. I would first make a motion that we close the public comment, the comment period of the public hearing. So could I get a second?
I think you did that already, the public
Yeah.
comment period.
Oh yeah, just a public hearing. Close the public hearing. Thank you, Steve.
Yep.
Thank you, sir. So all in favor of closing the public hearing for 20 sub 5, Mr. Martz?
Aye.
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 Who was the second on that motion?
I was.
Okay, thank you, Helene.
Any opposed? So I make a motion that the planning board approve 20 sub 5 Neil Martz 90 Black Road, Shokan, New York 12481, 2-lot subdivision of a 10.22 acre parcel for use as a residential home with a studio. Will someone second that motion?
I think we were going to add the condition that the culvert be shown on the plat.
And I'm noting that right now.
And that would be before we'll sign off on the plats. So
May I just say one thing? When I first started last year, one of the neighbors down from me had me go over with the DEC and all the water people on my land to make sure that it was all the water that would affect anything on that property I am not touching. And they put it on the map. It cost me extra money to make sure that I wasn't harming any water supply on the map. And they didn't, so that was already done. That was the first thing that you guys asked me back last year in October. Not this year in October, the previous year in October. The first thing was, one of the neighbors objected to the water supply being, that they were gonna get flooded. And I had to have special people come out and put on the map exactly where all the water would be harmed. And so it was really done already.
Yeah, the common denominator is water, Mr. Martz. I think what we're just asking is based on Mr. Burns, right? So a different set of eyes. asking for a culvert on the driveway. We're just asking that that culvert that's been recommended by Brian Burns. be
Okay,
called
no
out.
problem. We'll just tell Heidi. Heidi will put it on the map.
Okay, thank you. So Brian, so Stephen, I've noted that on the resolution, that a condition to have a culvert noted on the map.
Yep.
Okay. Sorry, I'm just doing the paperwork. Okay. Is there anything else before we vote?
That's all I had.
Okay. All right, so with that, I've made the motion. Who seconded the motion? I'm sorry, I forgot.
I did.
Helene? Okay. All in favor?
Well,
Aye.
actually, we have, Janelle's been doing a roll call vote on the resolutions, I think.
Yeah, I can do a roll call. David Sorbellini,
Aye.
Steve Dibble,
Aye.
Helene Grant,
Aye.
Ed Cahill,
Aye.
Nick Berger,
Aye.
Heidi's recusing herself, and then you just have Tim.
Tim Peck.
Aye.
That's it, right?
That's it.
Yep.
That's it.
So in conclusion, I just want to thank everyone for their input and their time and their patience. Certainly, this board, please don't think that we take these things lightly. There's been several conversations we've had individually or emails, and we really put a lot of effort forth and trying to make sure we look at this through the lens of everyone involved and doing the best we can to be fair and equitable, and most importantly, act within the confines of our zoning. So hopefully you can appreciate our charge, and we are respectful of the importance of neighbors and working things out. And we have a really great track record in the town of Olive with people helping people and making things happen. And I have every confidence that, Mr. Martz and Mr. and Mrs. Chan, and as well as the other neighbors who have voiced their opinion, will work this out. So, I would recommend, Mr. and Mrs. Chan, that you do ring up Mr. Brian Burns. He tried to make it to this meeting, but he was unable to. But I'm certain he will welcome your inquiries and do everything he can to assist. So with that,
I would just like to thank everyone for their time. I know it's a volunteer, and thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thanks. Yep. Have a good night.
Have a good night.
oh, the night's not over, right?
Nope.
For Neil, anyway. it's,
So I have to contact tomorrow with them and put that on the map.
Yes.
Yep.
And then-
We'll check that before we sign off on them, Neil.
Okay, will do. Thank you. Have a good night, everyone. Happy New Year.
Yeah.
Happy New Year.
Thank you. And Janelle, I just sent you the 3 documents. If you could, Steve, I'll copy you in. I know you have a good edit eye. If you just want to take a look at the resolution, the checklist, and the seeker.
Yep.
Okay, it is 8:16. Site plan 8-20, Colin LaFleck. I apologize if I mispronounced that. 73 McMillan Road, West Shoken, New York.
In this case.
Aye.
What do you mean he's in the-
Hey, Colin, Happy New Year, welcome.
Happy New Year, everybody. It's LaFleche. You were pretty close.
LaFleche.
But don't worry, people have mangled it way worse than that. So
All right, Mr.
Happens
LaFleche,
all
so Janelle has provided us with a package, including your application. Helene, I think you have a narrative to share, but Mr. LaFleche, if you want to share with us a brief narrative of what you're seeking to accomplish, and then we can get into it.
sure. Basically, we are working to reestablish a working farm on our property and to help sustain that future business. We're just trying to find a way to make some passive income that is also minimally impactful to the property, to our experience living there, our privacy, the neighborhood privacy. So there are a couple of areas south of the house, and not in a zone that we're going to be using for farming anyway, that are just already quite clear and level and would be good campsite locations. So the plan would be to just establish 4 campsites, 2 of them as tent platforms that could have like a canvas tent on them, and more of a glamping style setup. And then the other 2 would just be primitive campsites where someone could set up a tent and there'd be a picnic table and a fire ring or something. And then an outhouse kind of in between all of them for people to do their business. And they would be seasonal, obviously. And the idea is that it wouldn't be open in the same way that a public campground would be. It would only be rentable through Airbnb, or there's a website called HipCamp, which is specifically for tent sites on private property around the country. So we would know who would be coming to the property and would not necessarily meet them in person, but would be, on the property while they're there, and then checking the sites after them and cleaning things up and getting them ready for the next people. So that's the basic plan.
All right.
Look, that you're going to be using concrete to create
2 of them.
2 of them, right?
Well, I would like to avoid pouring concrete. It would either be using the preform concrete blocks that are like 8 inches tall or something like that, or potentially pouring a couple of 10-inch diameter footings or something. But the platforms themselves would be elevated above the ground and would basically be just an outdoor deck.
Awesome.
Are you proposing an additional driveway? I see there's a driveway up above on McMillan. Are you proposing a new driveway on Broadhead, or is that already there?
That's already there. My understanding is that is actually the original road from whenever. And then it was continued to be used as a driveway up until some point in the 70s or 80s. It certainly has not been used nearly as regularly as the driveway that comes in from McMillan. But there is a clear road running from Broadhead all the way up to the house.
Would your guest campers have any access to any kind of a water supply or facilities for cleaning dishes?
Well, we're not planning to really provide a sink or anything like that. The idea is that if you're here, it's, the primitive campsites would be a place for hikers to stay, or somebody that is used to a very
roughing it.
Yeah, a low facility campsite, so to speak. And then the glamping, as we envision it, it would be people that are, going to be eating out and staying in the area more on a tourist basis, perhaps.
How many people do you think are going to be staying there per day?
Well,
or what's the max could stay per day?
The idea is that we'd only allow 1 car per site. So potentially that would mean 4 people per site, but certainly the glamping tents, we would only have 1 bed in each of those. Because I think part of this also, we don't want to have, like 30 people on our property making noise all the time, certainly. So I think from our standpoint, we would try to market it as something for like couples to come and spend 2 nights glamping or something like that, rather than, a whole crew of people.
So how many would potentially be here at one time?
I suppose theoretically the maximum would be 12 or 16, I suppose. I mean, certainly if a family wanted to rent one of the tents, a couple and 2 kids, I don't see why that would be an issue. But I mean, I don't know. I guess I don't have a good sense of how in demand something like this is on a regular basis, but my expectation is that we probably won't be renting all of it all the time. It's probably going to be, 1 or 2 sites at a time.
And you're having one outhouse, right? One outhouse.
Correct.
Now, on the subject of the outhouse, you should approach the New York City DEP to make sure it's legal to do that under current regulations.
Yeah,
Have
so
you
sorry.
spoken to them yet?
I spoke to the DEP and they basically said to talk to the county. And then if the county had concerns about it, they would talk to the city. I've been in touch with the county and I was speaking with one of the engineers there, and I called him this afternoon to try and get an update, but didn't hear back from him. Sorry.
I'd like to, before we go on, I'd like to clarify from what I read, it's not an outhouse in the traditional standpoint, like a pit outhouse, right? It's going to actually be a holding tank that you're going to have pumped.
That's the hope, yeah. Because we don't want a cesspool on the property. So yeah, the idea is basically a nicer permanent porta potty. The engineer that at the Board of Health, frankly, just didn't know what they would require or allow when it comes to a holding tank. So I'm just waiting to hear back from them. He said it would probably work, but he just didn't know exactly what the process might be.
So when they make a decision, just get something in writing so the board has something to put in the file that says that it's legal.
Sure.
And the other question I have is, what are you going to provide places for them to dispose of their garbage? I don't see anything on the plan that shows a place for a dumpster or anything.
Yeah, that would probably be close to where the parking is. Our thinking is that we would have, a spot where we have pre-bundled firewood there, that with a little money box or something that they could take, and next to that could be, trash bins, or I would say a dumpster probably would not be necessary since we'll be checking the sites daily, but yes, definitely there would be a place for them to.
If you could show that location on your site plan and provide something that's bear proof.
Sure.
And the other question is the water. You have no intention of supplying drinking water for these people? They have to
I'd like to elaborate, because based on your earlier answer, some more thoughts is like for glamping. I can't imagine these people aren't going to want a place to brush their teeth and wash their face and stuff after they get done dining out. So
sure. I mean, I think the most we would provide would be like a little, a small water dispenser with like a 2-gallon or a 5-gallon. What are they called? Like for an office water dispenser, not an office water dispenser, but those pre-packaged 5-gallon tanks, and just like a wash basin, something very simple.
So along the lines of this conversation, I mean, the way I look at this, and for those of you who were in attendance for the last session with the seeker review, the less you provide, the more people are going to bring in, which means, i.e., more garbage, more unpredictability. I mean, no water, fire. How are we going to manage that? You mentioned the fire ring. With the limited enforcement we have in Olive already, you know, you mentioned 4 people in a car. I mean, I own an SUV. I know it can fit 7 in there. So I'd like to see this thing tightened up considerably, Mr. Little Flesh around, you know, you obviously know the zoning. It seems like you're well connected in terms of the network of folks to solicit to get the right information. But when I look at this on paper and I read the narrative, things just jump off the table at me in terms of, you know, I know it's a big lot. That's good. It's 50 some odd acres, right? But, you know, there's neighbors there. It's a pretty quiet neighborhood. And if we're now going to have 16 people with 4 fires and there's no water, and now we got police calls because people are going to other people's houses with hoses. I mean, all, you know, you can go on and on, right? So I want to lock this down. We've learned, at least I have in the last 13 years, that unless we have the proper parameters around this in terms of what's going to occur and what's not going to occur and what's going to be brought in and what's not, the number of people, the better off you'll be, because, you know, it'll start off with a couple and then they'll want to get married, and then we'll have a priest showing up and we'll have a little ceremony, and then somebody's going to want some music, and I'm a big barbecuer myself. And, but hey, you know,
That's what happens.
I don't think I'm too far off here. I mentioned the gig economy, right? Before you know it, you know, we got you know, what do they call it? A flash mob showing up, right? You got 550 people there, right? And we got a big old thing going on, and we rubber stamped this on January 5th of 2021. So I love the idea. I love the concept. This is very similar to what I just told Primo with Tedis Tire within the last month. You got to tighten this up. I personally, you know, I'm only one voice on the board. I get it. I buy into the concept. It's not tight. It's too loose. And with our limited resources in the town of Olive, we have 2 part-time employees who manage our planning, our zoning enforcement. This is too loose. We don't have the resources. So I'm just going to ask you respectfully, tighten it up. Show us the picture. Show us how you're going to hold people in check. Brush their teeth. Whatever they're going to do. How are they going to put their fires out? How are they going to get the rubbish out of there? Tell us that, because when we go through that seeker form and we've got the public here, I want to be able to tell them with confidence that we stamped this because we did our due diligence. So if you can respect that, I look forward to you coming back and telling us a great story. So I'll be quiet and ask the board to speak.
I totally agree with all of it.
Yeah,
Not sure what's going to happen with maybe one car will come with 4 people, but then they might have guests come, and it just can really develop into a lot of people all of a sudden.
I have a friend who has 2 glamping sites on a 60-acre parcel, and they're booked May through June through whatever, Memorial Day through Labor Day. I mean, every single weekend, even weekdays during the summer. It's extremely successful. Similar lot, you know, big, beautiful field surrounded by mountains. I think you need to plan for success. So I have a feeling that you're going to have people who want to come stay there. And I think you're going to want to, yeah, like David said, tighten this up, but really think about it in those terms, that what happens when you have that many, you know, successful, or set limits, you know, 4 to a 10 only. And we're going to, you know, I know you say you don't want to check in with them, but maybe you need to think about that more, have a little bit more oversight on the management side of it. Because I have a feeling there's going to be a demand for this. This is a popular thing people like to do. And I think that you have a potential here for, you know, to bring in some of that passive income you're looking for.
and as part of the, I'll say overall, tighten it up, I'd like to ask if you can get us, you know, one comprehensive good map. At least the package I have, there's like 3 or 4 or 5 different maps, and it's not clear to me what I'm supposed to be looking at on each one or why. Really just need one good diagram of what's where, and it would be good if you could include, you know, who the neighbors are, and
We have that.
a little bit of the area outside, just beyond camping area there. So
Yeah, the adjacent landowners. I mean, I know we have the list, but it would be nice to visually see them, right, Steve? That's what you're calling out, right?
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, put it-
Yeah.
With regard to that list, I don't know if it's totally correct, because I had someone approach me in an email today that they weren't notified. And I looked, they are not on the list. They're And they are within 500 feet of the property off of McMillan Road. So I think that that list needs to be made a little bit larger.
Amended, yeah.
That list was what the assessor gave me. She said that I didn't need to include anyone on the other side of the roads on McMillan or Broadhead, but certainly we can. fix
You
that.
need to include the
Yeah.
people along McMillan.
Yeah, if it's an adjoining property, we need that. Whether it's across the road or not, doesn't matter. We need adjoining property.
500 feet, right?
How close they are to that, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. That was my initial assumption. And then when I was at the assessor's office, she gave me a different list, so.
Yeah.
And I will say, I hear everybody's concerns. First and foremost, we moved here because of what this place is. We don't want to change that. The tents will be within a couple hundred feet of where we are every day and where we sleep. So certainly we're not looking to run a campground. We're not looking to be in the, in the hotelier business, so to speak.
Yeah, and we hear that point, and I'll just speak on behalf of the public, and we've heard this before, but what happens when you sell it and someone else buys it, right? So I want to become your best advocate, Mr. LaFleche, genuinely, and like those who know me, just saw that on display with Mr. Martz. Help us be that, right? Because if you're not, kind of build this without you being there to babysit it, right? It has to be, it's kind of its own entity that with the right parameters around it, it can stay compliant and it's not required to have your thumb on it. And I just don't see that yet.
Yeah, let me add to that. I'd just like to explain that if we do a special use permit site plan and approve it, that goes with the property, not with the current owners. So we do have to look at it from the standpoint of the future as well.
Sure. I will also say that I just have never done anything like this before, so I'm new to this whole process and I'm learning as I go, for sure.
No problem.
So I was anticipating that we would need to provide more of something and change something and all of that. So that's no problem. I guess my question would be, aside from a more comprehensive single map, when you say locking down the details, are you looking for a set number maximum per site? Are you looking for a diagram of the exact location of fire rings or the products that are going to be used, or is it just kind of the more the merrier? I don't want to, basically, is there something that I might not know that I need to include that I should?
I would be interested in how you will ensure that your guests are of high quality and respect your property. And as David Sorbellini pointed out, not result in police and fire calls. And what I'm thinking is, and I'll ask you to think about this, I don't know if you have or not, but if you're listing with Airbnb, there are often a number of, I'll say, qualifications and restrictions that are part of the listing. What the guests are allowed to do, not to do, and what's expected of them. I would be interested in seeing that level of detail in terms of how the guests are going to be managed.
Yeah, so thank you, Stephen. And Mr. LaFleche, I'm thinking around, if you look at our zoning, it's almost like you could almost look through the lens of what it takes to kind of open up a small retail business, right? So you'd have to look at things like parking and hours of operation and number of people. And if you're going to allow music, what are the hours of that music? And we won't get into volume levels, but the hours of the music, right? The type of music, amplified versus not. Safety, right? So lighting, right? Is there a lighted path, right? Access for safety, whether it be EMT, fire, whatever. Steve just mentioned the vetting. Is there something like that? Refuse, garbage. You spoke to the.
Are the guests allowed to have guests?
Right,
which goes to, am I going to have a big party there that I didn't expect? I
exactly.
mean, some of it's to protect you as well. I mean, like you say, you've got the home on the property right near the campsites. Don't want to have 4 people sign up for the site and then 50 show up to have a party.
Right, and they got a quiet Honda generator and you didn't know it, and and they're cranking out a generator, right? So are they allowed to bring in portable power? I mean, I would like to, at the end of this, have a site plan that we're reviewing and we're supportive of, that, probably has a list of conditions. Again, there's a similar scenario with outdoor weddings where ultimately where we landed on was a list of conditions by which the neighbors could endorse and live with. And again, it wasn't completely one-sided. We tried to strike a balance between the landowner and neighbors. So, hopefully I've given you enough to think about, but our zoning gives some clear guidance in terms of, if you kind of look at opening a small business, the things I mentioned would be things you look at, like signage, right? Are people could be putting up banners? I mean, I know it's silly, but, there are successful glamping operations in the town today. And, they went through a cycle of unpredictability till they got it done right.
Sure. That's helpful. So.
And again, please don't interpret my tone or my feedback as anti
Not at all.
camping.
Not at all.
Make us your advocate. We want to make you successful, and at the same time, be in harmony with what exists today. And I think most people will embrace this.
Can I also ask for, in between now and the next meeting, for you to explore the water option a little bit more? I don't know what your well has the capacity to bear, if you can run a line, and have an actual spigot somewhere near the campsite for water.
Heidi, I don't know if, and it might be a concern, but at some point you end up being a public water supply. So if you're driven off well, Ed, you can probably comment on that, but.
You're saying.
So that's, I don't know if you've thought about that or looked into it, but.
Are you addressing me? Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, the water thing, I certainly think your guests would be, pleased to have a source of water. But in the same vein, I understand if you're trying to avoid running a public water supply, which I think at some point, I'm not sure what the criteria are for when it becomes public, and you have to manage it like a public supply.
Well, I think everything kicks in at 5 campsites. If you look at the state sanitary code, part 7.
Okay.
5 or more, you need a health permit, and all that stuff falls into place once you get that. So I'm sure he's researched that, and that's why his number is 4.
Correct.
But it could become the Woodstock Festival the way Dave Sorbellini's predicting, but
With a flash mob.
You know what? This little device
we,
right here,
we
you
didn't
can have a
have,
flash
we didn't
mob.
have an anniversary, so maybe we'll have one there. I don't know.
I think that plays to the fact, though, that then we would have a condition potentially that limits you to the 4 sites and
Right.
no additional sites.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right, the 4
Yeah.
sites, and then how many people per site. And, to your point, Mr. LaFleche, right? If it's a family, like if it's me, right? My wife and I have one tent, we bring our 2 children, they have a tent, right? I mean, we want to be flexible, but at the same time, we want to be able to tell the public with confidence what we've approved and that it does fit into the character. And when you say character of the neighborhood, it's the appropriate regulations.
Sure.
Okay, so with that, Mr. LaFleche, what questions do you have for us?
Well, I guess aside from the updated site plan, what other documents would you be looking from me?
So, I know, Steve, you mentioned this, I think at the beginning, or I'm sorry, it was it was on the December 15th meeting I watched earlier today. I probably would like to see a seeker on this. The way the process would work, Mr. LaFleche, would be you would come back to us with an updated site map with all the elements that we've just noted. We would review that and ultimately make a declaration, and we have a complete application. Again, Stephen and Ed and board, I would like to see a seeker. I just think this is, because it's touching nature so much, I just think we should dot our i's and cross our t's. Is that allowed, you think?
Well, it's a site plan.
Yeah.
It is? Okay. Okay.
And I think along with that, the narrative that he submitted, he could kind of expand a little bit to reflect all the things that we talked about tonight.
All right.
Okay. So then, Mr. LaFleche, so when you can get that back to us and, we move at your, at your request of Janelle to get on the agenda, and we require a 14-day notice. We'll get you on the next, whatever meeting that is, and we'll have a similar session like this. More than likely, it'll be, much more efficient because you'll have heard us. And then at that point, we would either need more changes, or if it's right in line with what we requested, we would move to a public hearing in a subsequent meeting. And then, as you witnessed this evening, you saw the balance of the process. Does that,
Okay.
does that give you kind of a construct?
It does, yes. Thank you.
And in the interim, if you have questions, Janelle is available via email, and she is uber responsive and very informative. And if she doesn't have the answer, she gets it.
Yeah, we have already been in touch. I've been bothering her already.
And so with that, Janelle, can you provide him the link to the
Seeker,
online version of the secret form so that
I can do that.
we start from the right place? And the other, I just had one other question, and that was, I assume that the intent here would be to be in operation for the beginning of what would be this coming season. Is that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
hopefully.
Okay.
So what would the months be like? April to October?
Wait, as Mr. Ingram said on the December 15th meeting, other than Steve, the warm months.
The
Or was
warm-
Yeah. The warm month. Yeah.
the warm months, the northeast warm months. Okay. So
Yeah.
July and August, that's it.
Yeah.
Do you have months you're going to be thinking about this?
Yeah, probably April to October.
Yeah,
Really-
April, October, yeah.
Really depending on,
The
what
weather.
the weather is, but something like that.
Right.
Okay. Mr. LaFleche, thank you for your time. Thank you for coming forth with this idea. We look forward to hearing from you. And like I said, if there's questions in the interim, Janelle is available.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Happy
Bye-bye.
New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Okay, 8:44. We are on SP 920 Rice Plumbing and Heating, 4135 Route 28, Boyceville, New York, 12412. The intent is to operate a service business and retail space for the public from a commercially zoned building. I believe this is the former
Dino's
Valley Pizza.
Dino's Quick Stop.
Yeah.
What's that, Ed?
The last thing, it was Dino's Quick Stop, but the last thing was a preschool.
Slash
the daycare
Dr.
center.
Saffron's office / a preschool. slash-
I remember when it was Valley Pizza back in the day. I'd get off the
There you
bus
go.
from Coleman, get 2 slices, play pole position, then. All right, well, who is representing? Is it Mrs. Salazar?
Yep, that's me.
Okay, I don't see you, but I hear you.
There you are.
Am I here? Okay.
Hi
I
there.
don't Zoom very often.
You zoom in fine. We'll see
Okay,
ya.
good. Hi.
Hi.
Well, thank you for your patience. It's been a long evening, so the floor is yours.
Thank you. All right, so yes, my name is Samantha. The owner of Rice Plumbing and Heating is my boss, Aaron Rice. He's been in business for about, I believe, 15 years. We do have a current location currently in Accord, New York on 209. And we've been there for about 7 years now in that particular location. And we want to expand actually into a second location. And we thought that Boyceville would be the best median location between Route 28. So you want to go from, you want to service West Hurley up to like past Phoenicia, maybe Fleischman's. We want to open up the Dr. Saffron's building to a retail space as well. So we want to be there, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, and sell items to the public. So it's gonna be like PVC, copper, everyday items that homeowners might need that they don't really have access to, in near Boyceville. Unfortunately, I've noticed that a lot of people have said that there's not really that many hardware stores or even plumbers out there. So we want to do a retail space, and we also want to, have a truck or two up there as well to do service to the surrounding area as well.
Helene, if you click on the other one that I sent, it's she has a more updated explanation of the business.
Well, Ms. Salazar, while they're doing that, I'm a little disappointed because based on that description you just gave, you're going to take away one of my excuses I tell my wife for going to Starbucks 3 times on the weekend.
I'll have coffee in the shop for you. Don't you worry. I got you.
It would personally, it would be refreshing to be able to take a 10-minute ride to get a PVC coupling or a shark bite versus the hour it takes today. So I get it. So
No, exactly.
Amen.
That's what I've heard.
but you said you're going to open in Boyceville, right? I just wanted to make sure I heard that. Boyceville?
Right here, Boyceville.
Yes, 4135.
It's too bad.
Did I spell something wrong? Because I saw a lot of spelling mistakes in my proposal.
No,
I
no.
apologize.
I can tell you though, the zip code is incorrect on Boyceville.
Oh no!
It's an inside joke that my cohorts aren't joining me in there, but that's okay, Ed. I guess, so to me, this is just a matter of blocking and tackling, right? So, I mean, I see you've got hours, we talk about signage, we got to talk about parking spots, ADA compliance, those types of things. I mean, to me, that's certainly the building is appropriate for it. It's been everything from a pizzeria to whatever. So
I've heard.
Right spot. I mean, you're going to get a lot of traffic. You got the school in session. I'm sure a lot of people grab stuff on their way back home, so on and so forth. We could absolutely use more people in the service sector in this town. So I don't know, what board, what say you? I mean, what questions do we have?
Go ahead.
Well, I was just mine's kind of a little bit off the wall here, but I'm wondering if you actually measured these parking spaces to be in conformance with the zoning, which is what, 9 by 18 or something?
9 by 20.
9 by 20, because at least my recollection of that parking lot was there wasn't that much room there.
Yes, so I went off of a site plan that was done in the 80s, and the parking itself was the same. It was originally put in for 13 parking spots, and I did put, I think, 11, because I felt like 13 was a lot. So I think Valley Pizza, when they were in business, they had 13 spots on their site plan. So I did put 11, and I did make the ADA parking, which is the first parking lot to the front of the building, bigger as well. So only put 2 spots there, and then put the rest of the spots in the other side, the opposite side.
So you're saying this does comply with the 9
Yes.
by 20? Okay, great. I
And it looks like,
never thought there was that much space there.
yeah, I think spots, Steve, 6 through 11, they
Yep.
face the what's now a veterinarian, which used to be the chapel, right?
Yep, the church, yep.
My one kid went there when it was a daycare, and I remember the parking was pretty tight. But I'm guessing that the play area is getting taken out, and that's more parking.
Yes, the play area is not there anymore,
Yeah.
which I believe that's where 3, 4, and 5 parking spot was
Yes.
before.
Now, where are you going to store the pipe?
Okay, so there is an existing shed back there right behind the building itself.
The
We
10
also
by-
want,
the 10 by 30 trailer, is that what you're talking about?
no, there's a permanent shed that is there in the back. It's a square, it's right,
Where behind the trailer.
Oh, okay, okay. Yep.
there's a shed there we do want to use, but I also wanted to see from the board if it's okay that we put this 10 by 30, pretty much a permanent trailer there as well. We want to make sure we have storage, and it's also going to be hidden behind the building, so you wouldn't really be able to see it from the road. There's also bushes back there too.
So that trailer is not in existence today on the site.
No, we would have to locate one. And I did put that size, because I wanted to upsize a little bit just in case if there was any other, if there's compliance with, the size of a trailer that I can put back there. for
Yeah.
PVC and copper and such.
You might want to check with the building department to see what the
Okay.
code requirements would be for that.
I did sit down with Mr. Ingram and Mr. Cavello about it too, so they are aware as well of the proposed sizes of my sign, the trailer, and of, you know, a security system and such as well. We do have a copy of this too, I believe.
Okay.
Did
Would
I
you-
go over with you the square footage of the buildings just to make sure that the 11 parking spaces shown and accounted for was sufficient?
Yep.
Did they go over those square roots with, square roots? Did they go over those square footages with you?
Yes. So
Yep.
again, are you talking to me? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay. So I did base it, like I said before, I did base the parking spots off of a site plan that was, I guess, professionally made up in when the Valley Pizza place
Oh,
was
you
there.
said it was pizza. I just wanted to make sure it was like for like, but retail and retail, and then
Yes.
what's the back building going to be again?
That is also Dr. Safran's building, but we have nothing to do with that building. I'm not sure what's, I spoke to Dr. Safran about it and he wasn't concerned about the back building. I'm not sure what he's deciding to do with that building.
Oh, okay. So you're only working with the front part of the
Yes.
property. Okay, thank you.
Is
Yes.
that 10 by 30 trailer just for supplies?
Yes.
So there's no bathroom in there or anything like that?
No, this is just for my guys to be in and employees only pretty much and to have storage. You know what I mean? When they take
heat in
storage
there?
out.
Will there be heat in there?
No.
And it's a shipping container, right? That's what you're gonna.
Yes.
Okay.
So would you be opposed to putting up a shed?
Um,
I mean, candidly, I'm asking the question because shipping containers are made to be on a ship or on the road. And I don't know, they're ugly. I'm speaking.
yeah, yes.
Yeah,
So
I-
we wanted to put a temporary, okay. In the beginning, I think that we were gonna be okay with the shed, but it's just if we do grow and we do need more material, if it's okay to have this structure there. And we also would be able to hide it behind the building. So you wouldn't be able to see it on the road.
I
It
think,
would be, I'm sorry?
I mean, I just measured, I mean, the building's like 36 feet wide. Are you gonna have, I mean, it looks like you might have to take down some of those bushes in the back because they're,
Yes.
I mean, I'm looking at Google Street View and those bushes are right up
Yes.
against that building too.
Yes, yep. So there's, I think, 2 bushes that we would have to cut back a decent amount. And Dr. Safran was okay with it.
I think maybe the concern with the trailer is the aesthetics of it. I realize it'll be shielded from the road to at least some degree, but might want to consider whether you could put some,
Yes.
clad it with something to
Okay,
make it less look like a trailer sitting
yes, No.
on the main drag of town, but
yes, of course. And we will, we definitely are, if we need more storage in the shed, and if you guys are not approving the trailer, that's 100% okay. We'll definitely put plans in to build a shed in the future, but I think we're going to use a shed that's on the property then now.
I'll go out on a limb. That would be a preference if just
Yep.
the aesthetic. It's just,
Okay,
I mean, yeah, okay. Outside of that, I think this is a home run.
okay, perfect. So you want a permanent shed structure. And then that can be put in the future, correct?
Yeah, I would
With
make,
the plan, of course.
I mean,
and-
certainly as we move forward and get more discourse from the board here, but if you're agreeable to that, I would just make it a condition on the approval that, if the need is for additional storage, it would be a storage structure versus a shipping container.
Okay.
An LTL, FTL. It's not the aesthetic as Steve said. It's just not.
Okay, and understandable, 100%.
Unless you want to put it on Ed Cahill's house, we're good with that.
yeah. And just, I mean, where it shows it today, the trailer, where it shows it doesn't look like it would be an issue, but anything new that you're going to place or put in place is going to need to comply with the zoning setbacks.
Okay, fair enough.
So, Ms. Salazar, what's your timeline?
I mean, as soon as we get approval from you, we're ready to sign the lease and start. We do need a month to settle ourselves, to put flyers out to, excuse me, mail flyers out, and, you know, have my staff come in and do shelving units inside the building and such. And we're ready to launch a month after, hopefully about a month after we sign the lease.
Thank you. And
Is
then,
there-
oh, go ahead,
excuse me.
Heidi.
I just have one quick question about lighting. I know that you're not going to be open
Yes.
late at night or anything like that, but it
Yes.
does get in the wintertime a little bit dark. Do you have anything to illuminate the parking lot? Is there something there now?
Yes and no. So there is existing electric to where the daycare sign was. But on my site plan, I did put a couple lights too on the side. So if you're looking at the buildings on the right-hand side where the parking, the ADA parking lot spot is,
Mm-hmm.
there's gonna be a couple lights right there to illuminate the sign.
Oh, I see it now. Thank you.
And then there's also gonna be, I'm gonna put some lights too where the sign's gonna be in the middle of the grass as well.
I see. Lighting.
Samantha, was the other diagram better with the other app, with the other paperwork, or was this the same diagram?
Which diagram? I apologize. Oh, sorry. Hold on. Let me switch my
Well,
screen.
there was
I
like,
apologize.
one was the very first thing that you submitted, and then when we went along further, you submitted one again, all over again, that had the adjoining property owners and things. Was that diagram the same, or was it better?
No, it's the same.
Okay.
Ms. Salazar, just in terms of deliveries, do you get big freight deliveries? Do you get any type of, I don't know, things can you speak to that? You know, would there be any type of big vehicles, vans that are stored there that would take up those 11 parking spots, or some of them all the time?
Yes, so we would have, we would start off with one van, so we would take one of the parking spots from the one van. I wouldn't necessarily have to take the actual parking spots that are there. I could put the van in the middle of 2 and 3, next to the bushes as well. There's a spot there if that parking spaces were a problem, but I would ideally like to park the vehicles there at, you know, parking lot 6 or 7.
And do you get delivery by LTL, big tractor trailers?
So we do have a couple companies that, yes, they do have big like box trucks or big vehicles, and I would assume, and I would probably want them to pull in, not into the parking lot itself, but on the right where the gas station road is, in between the gas station and the 1-story framed house as well. And probably be easier for them to pull over into that side road and then, you know, unload their stuff into the shed or into the building.
So was there a receiving dock on that building? I don't know the building actually, other than just.
No, there's only 2 doors.
So if things are delivered by pallet or anything like that,
There's no pallets. It's all hand, you know, brought in.
When you say they would pull in by the gas station, I'm kind of, where, can you describe that a little better?
Yeah, so I don't know logistics on how drivers would be able to, I believe they'd be able to pull in and park their vehicle, unload, and then back out and then go into the main road. If they weren't able to do that, then I would think that they would go in between the road of where the gas station lays, and then this is the so if the school's on the right and my building is on the left, they would go, you know, on the left side where the gas station is, and then that road right there, and I'm parked to the right hand side of where the building is.
Just, I don't know if you've been up there. That road is right now, next to the gas station is just absolutely horrible.
Yeah, if you park on that shoulder with a tractor trailer, you're never going to be able to see pulling out of the gas station. The cars coming from the west, so.
Okay.
You can't have them parking out on the edge of the road and unloading. It just doesn't work.
And you'll be potentially blocking the entrance to the gas station from that side.
Or if at least you'll be blocking the visibility pulling out. I know that for a fact. so.
Yeah, so
So
I think
Ms.
you wanna-
Salazar, what we're getting at is, if you will, think through that with you and your team in terms of like maybe a communication or a routing order to your suppliers. And I'll
Yes.
call it out, today, not in our town, but on 28, it used to be called the Doll's House. There have been like a dozen tractor trailers that have literally got caught on Route 28 because they bottom out trying to do a U-turn on 28. And I'm trying to avoid any type of dangerous situation here with a school, with school buses. You could just picture it, right? And a
Yeah.
purple or a brown truck not having a predetermined path to your delivery spot. So
Okay.
I would like to see that articulated, if you would, in both
Yes.
visually and literally in a routing order, that when you cut POs, you're telling them, hey, look, you enter our building here and park here, and this is the delivery point. I do think you may think it's nitpicky, but it's an important component here, because to Ed's point and Stevens, that adjacent road you're talking about to the east it's not a road anymore. It's a minefield.
Okay.
yeah,
So again, I apologize for the nitpicky there, but you're
No,
probably
under-
doing deliveries,
understandable.
and the last thing we want is, replicating what we have today with a fuel truck parked in Shokan that parks, just, we don't want any more of that.
Okay.
Outside of that, board, do we have any other concerns? Issues, suggestions, recommendations?
I suggest they carry a full line of PEX.
Yeah.
Yeah, baby.
No, I'm excited. Hopefully it works out.
We need to refer this to the county, do we feel? I know we have some, we have some latitude there, discretion.
It's already, it was a commercial property already.
I feel the same. I just wanted to, part of the record. Steve, Ed, Nick?
Yeah,
Tim?
I'm fine with it. We can do this one.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't see what would be of interest to the county in this.
No, there wouldn't be.
If it was something that was going to have truck traffic all day long or
No.
that kind of
That'd be
thing, it'd
different,
be
yeah.
different, but
Or if it was new and there was nothing there now. it'd be a
Yeah.
whole Different situation.
So outside of the storage shed and the delivery scenarios I just recommended, is there anything else that we want to call out? And I'm thinking we have Ms. Salazar come back for a public hearing, or are we thinking a different path?
I say public hearing.
Yeah, we have to have a public hearing. You think we're ready to schedule that? If she's confident she'll make these little changes, in the meantime, we can schedule it.
That's,
Well, 100%.
Say it again.
100%. I'm prepared to figure out this, the delivery parcels, and also with the
The
shed
shed.
structure as well.
I say
Definitely.
move it along.
yeah, that's what I'm thinking is.
I'm
move it-
thinking too.
We don't want to be an impediment to progress, and I mean that sincerely. I guess, do we need to know the exact space? So it says 800 square feet of commercial inside this. Do we need any breakdown inside the store in terms of, or not?
I think the only thing would be, from a parking standpoint, I think retail space is treated differently than other office space.
Yes, so when I spoke to the highway department, they told me because of the square footage of the building, I needed the one ADA handicapped parking spot, which
Yep.
I do have at one. And they did say, I believe, like 7 parking spots were required. But I know that our number was well above what their requirements were.
How many
When I did
employees are going
speak
to
to
be
them.
there daily? How many employees are going to be there every day?
So we want to ideally start out with 4 and a maximum of probably 6. But any given time, we're gonna have a maximum of 2 people in the building itself. My guys are gonna come in the morning to do their morning meeting, and then go out to do the calls and have to come back for material and such. But I'm gonna have myself there in the office with another partner or helper there as well for the retail side.
I think just to, I'll say, cover the bases, I would ask that you put the dimensions on the building, and also the dimensions of what you would propose would be retail space. versus storage space or other space within the building. It shouldn't take too much.
Okay.
If you look at the zoning, it's either one space for every 200 square feet of retail area or 250 square feet of gross area. So whatever that calculates to, plus whatever you need for the employees and your van, and that's how we come up with how many parking spaces we need. So.
Yeah. And offhand, it looks like it should be fine, but.
Yeah, but you should do those calculations on that,
Okay.
on the main building. And if that's 2,000 square feet, just for throwing a number out, then you'd need 10 spaces.
Right, and it's 800, right? So.
Is that all it is, 800?
Right,
Yeah,
so
it's
she
not
just needs
very
4
big.
spaces.
It's 36 by 24, which is, unfortunately, I'm on my phone, so I can't do the math on my phone. So just give me 1 second.
I don't know if you've seen it, but it's defined in the zoning
It's
code.
64.
The number of spaces you need per employee and per square foot. So
Okay.
you just want to take a look at that and do the calculation and, include that when you come back.
Yeah. And
Okay.
And Ms. Salazar, what I'm getting to at with that question is, ultimately, we want the numbers to tell the story, right? So if someone looked at this plat in 10 years and you're still in business and you got 10 of these up and down 28, they can say, oh, it makes perfect sense, right? This square footage was divided by this number, which equaled the number of parking spots plus your employees plus your van.
Okay.
So if you can tighten up, if you will, the shed, the parking as we just discussed. What was the third item? I apologize. Oh, the delivery?
The delivery.
The delivery and load area.
Okay.
And then if you can communicate with Janelle, once you have that complete, I'll leave it up to Janelle to say that on the next meeting, which I believe, are we gonna go for 2 meetings this month, board?
I believe so.
So on the 19th, is that correct? Or the
19th
20th?
to the next one.
I don't think we could have a public hearing until next month, right?
Right, because we don't have enough time, right? That's what I'm saying. When's the next meeting? Is it the 26th or the 19th?
I mean, it's the 19th. If we,
19th.
if we had everything in place, I could do it, but having to wait for material, I can't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's
Can I
go
ask
February.
Something.
Yo, February
So-
2nd.
I'm sorry.
Janelle, did you want to speak first?
No, it was Samantha that wanted to speak.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So with the the shed structure currently, if we decide just to go with the shed that's on the property itself now that's existing and not do the trailer because we're 86 on the trailer, can we just go forward without having the shed structure be proposed currently? Because right now, if we're gonna have to build a shed, we're not ready to do so until we figure out 100% how the business is gonna do over there.
Yes, the condition I'm requesting respectfully is that if additional storage space is needed beyond that shed, that it not be done via a shipping container, if you will.
Yes.
That you would build a aesthetically, whatever shed.
Yes.
I think to be 100% up and up, you'd want to come back and modify your site plan.
Right, just take it off, right?
No, I'm
Okay.
saying in the future. I think she's going to take it off for now.
Yes.
And then in the future, if you decided you wanted to add it, you just come back and ask to modify the site plan.
Yes.
Perfect.
Ideally, please.
Okay. So we're good there. So you'll remove the trailer, temporary
Yes.
storage, address the delivery and load, and then just please show the dimensions of the building as requested by Ed, and then just back into the numbers for the parking spots, 2 employees in the van, and I think we're good.
Okay, perfect.
So on Tuesday, February 2nd, you can communicate with Janelle, and as long as the timing constraints are met, you'll be on that agenda for a public hearing.
Okay, perfect.
And I
Thank
don't-
you.
And I don't see any reason why that evening, barring some material event, you wouldn't be, complete with this process.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you. Happy New Year.
Yes, Happy New Year. Thank you.
There's one way to get Frank done to say mercy, just keep making the poor guy wait. All
Oh,
right.
I thought this was going to be a short night from the agenda.
Me too.
Don't forget the 9 o'clock curfew.
I know, I was hoping it wouldn't cut out before we got up.
I'll probably defer to Stephen for this, only because he's smarter than I am.
Oh, and can I just say one thing? Helene, don't listen to Dave. You are doing an amazing job. I don't know how you juggle all this with all these different projects.
Like this.
Amazing.
We're gonna triple your pay, Helene.
Oh, there you go. I was hoping I was going to get a raise this year after 13 years.
Well, I will defer to Stephen, all joking aside, just because Stephen did communicate with Mr. Bacon, and I think he's got some updates, and then we can discuss next steps.
Yeah, I think the first thing to note, and the planning board, I think, is mostly aware, but the first thing to note is that the contract / escrow has been put in place with CT Mail. So in fact, we are at a point where we are able to engage them to provide support for the planning board and the town. So that's good news. And beyond that, I think the other main piece of business here was that the announcement, or the announcement of the SECRA proceedings, I guess, went out, and we have not heard of any objections. So I think at this point we are in a position to proclaim ourselves as the lead agency.
Good.
And I presume we need to do that via a formal motion and a vote. But does anybody have any comments on that, or procedural or otherwise?
All good news.
Yeah, thank you for the update.
Okay.
I would make the motion that we become the lead agency in this proceeding.
Somebody want a second?
A second. Nope.
Sounds like Nicholas.
Yep.
Just
Put Nick down for that.
Okay, and Janelle, you want to we'll do a voice vote?
Sure. Dave Sorbellini,
A.
Steve Dibble,
Aye.
Helene Grant,
Aye.
Ed Cahill,
Aye.
Heidi Emmerich,
Aye.
Nick Berger,
Aye.
Tim Peck.
Aye.
Okay, so now with that done, I will say I'm not entirely familiar with all this process. I haven't been through some of this before, but the impression I got from the email, one of the emails, was that in fact we would be setting a course here to have a comment period, or a public hearing / hear public comments on the SECRA. And I saw that Jim Bacon was on earlier. Jim, do you have comments on that?
Sure. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yep.
Oh, good. So in SECRA, the a public hearing is in this type of project is discretionary for the board. Now, the applicant has requested that we have a public hearing because they feel it's important for the public to weigh in, and if there's anything that or we've missed, then the public has a chance to identify those issues, and the board can consider them. So I think that was really important that the board declared itself lead agency today and voted on that. If Mike Moriello is on, he can weigh in a little bit more on what the applicant intends to do and where they are in terms of getting their stormwater pollution prevention plan together.
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Happy New Year to everybody on the board.
Happy New Year.
I don't have a lot to add to what Jim says. From a legal standpoint, I agree with Jim that public hearing is discretionary. We're using an expanded EAF process, so it's good to have the public be part of that so we can get their comments. I know my clients would like to hear the public comments and have the public participate. So my only issue with the public hearing is if one is scheduled, does the board take care of the notices, or do you expect the applicant to do the notices, or do you do the publication and we do the notice? How do you work it?
Janelle, do you want to address that? I don't see that it would be any different than any other public hearing that we would.
Yeah, I mean, normally with the public hearing, we put an announcement in the newspaper. And I would be mailing out to the list of property owners, adjoining property owners, the announcement of the public hearing. I do believe, I'm not sure that we were supplied with the envelopes. I'd have to double check, but I think we were supplied with the envelopes for all the neighbors. And they would be getting notice in the mail.
Can I just comment quickly? I guess my question is for Jim, because we normally have a public hearing for a subdivision. Now, are we going to have two public hearings, one for Sika and one for our normal subdivision, or was it all one public hearing?
Well, that's a good question. I think that's, if we have one on the Secra, then eventually, I don't know, Mike, how do you expect us to, that we will deal with that?
Well, there's an interesting anomaly in Seeker, and there's a case. It's among Seeker geeks like myself. It's a very famous case, but it's called Kittredge. It's called
Kittredge.
Kittredge versus the town of Liberty, and that case stood for the proposition that even if you have a public hearing for Seeker, you must have a public hearing for the subdivision separately. So if you decide to have that public hearing, you would have to have another public hearing or keep the public hearing open, announce there's several ways to do it. Usually you have the public hearing for Seeker, then you have another public hearing for.
That's the way. That's right.
But it could be on the same day, the same night, right?
No, you have to complete Seeker. So you have to make a determination of significance, either a pos deck or a neg deck, before you can have that other public hearing.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, like in many things, that doesn't make sense to a lot of people, including me and Mike. But
that's for sure.
That's the way that's what we have to do.
Procedural. I think we can deal with it.
But Janelle, that's fine if you take care of the notices. That's
Yeah, but now I have a little problem, because if there's two public hearings, I do not have envelopes for the second public hearing. So I would.
Well, we wouldn't be ready, I don't think, for the second public hearing for a little while, because we have to get through this first.
Right.
And we can always provide those, Janelle. My office can get you more envelopes if you need them.
I would definitely need the addressed and stamped envelopes for
and if
second
for
round.
some reason you don't have the ones that I believe we sent ones over.
I
but if
do.
you don't have
I have found them in my packet here, so I
Okay.
definitely have one set.
And I assume there would be I'll say minimal fee for the second newspaper notice
that's fine. Whatever that is, we'll pay it. We can take it out of the escrow. So from a legal standpoint, I don't have any other issues. I think Barry has some engineering updates that he wants to share with the board. Correct, Barry?
Well, just that a test well has been installed on the property, and we have a hydrogeologist who's going to, I think they may have even started today with the pump test. There was an existing well by the house that was replaced, basically, and then a new well was put at the other end of the site, and this meets the requirements of the Department of Health. For subdivisions of 14 lots, we have to have 2 test wells. before we get their final approval. So that's in progress. So the new well that was installed was actually very productive. It's somewhere like around 25 gallons a minute. And so we have a hydrogeologist who was testing them this week. And the results of that will be sent to the health department for their approval, and we'll inform you of the outcome of all that. In addition to that, we're still preparing a SWIP, but I know you hired an engineer. Are they reviewing the plans we submitted already? Where do we stand with that?
We just completed the paperwork, so the next step there will be to, in fact, send them a package with all the details to begin their review.
Okay, so you're going to send them what we've sent already, because we will be updating those with the SWIP. So, probably, hopefully before the next meeting.
Yep. Well, Janelle will ask you to put together a package and we'll get it off to CT Mail.
Okay.
To
And
Janelle
do
and the board.
we have a contact there? Do you have any objection of me contacting them directly if I need to?
I don't know. Does anybody have an objection? I don't.
Pretty standard. I think that's fine.
Yeah, I don't have any objection. And as a matter of fact, well, to that point, we're going to want CT Mail's guidance and expertise helping us navigate the public hearings that were mentioned. That was one of their expertise, if the board remembers, and their RFP response. And then Janelle, I would think the list of your recipients for the envelopes is probably going to expand beyond just the neighbors, right? It's the other agencies as well. Is that correct, Mr. Bacon?
To notify them of the public hearing? Well, I mean, it certainly doesn't hurt to do that. I don't think there's a requirement. As I said, it's not a required public hearing, but yeah, it's certainly good practice to keep them in the loop.
Yeah, I think I think Jim's point is a good one. And the only other thing I would add, I should have said before, is that there's a provision in the seeker regulations that calls for a 14-day notice period under seeker for a seeker public hearing. Now, normally that's within the context of an EIS, because EIS, an environmental impact statement on a POS deck, there are required public hearings. So I don't technically think the 14 days is required, but I think in light of the nature of the interest in the project, we should provide for the 14 days. So that would mean that I think we would have to schedule a public hearing for the February 2nd, not for the next meeting in January, I believe.
Right.
In order to get the 14 days.
Mm-hmm.
I should have said that earlier, sorry to the board.
Do we have, or will we have everything that we want to say, vet the plan at that point, meaning I think the SWIP and all that?
Well, I don't think Barry's going to have a full SWIP done, but he does have a very detailed plan now that shows conservation areas, some setbacks. It's quite a bit more detailed than what was originally presented. So I think Barry can probably speak to the level of detail if you want. Barry, go ahead.
Well, I don't know if the board has seen the conservation area specifically, that we only circulate that among ourselves and come to an agreement of what areas would be preserved. So there are areas of the site that we're going to designate, no further disturbance at all, and put in a conservation area, some kind of restriction to it, protect from further development or somebody over developing an individual lot or anything. So we will have to certainly provide that in time, I would think, for the CEQA public hearing. So we need to just update the maps to show that. We have some of the preliminary SWIP information, but we don't have the full SWIP designed out with all the calculations and details that will ultimately be required.
Do you have a time frame for when you might expect to have that?
It's probably, I hope to complete that during this month. So over the next few weeks. So I don't know when the next meeting date is, or when this, whether we could submit it in time for that. You're doing 2 meetings a month now, is that how it is?
Yeah, so it wouldn't be the next meeting, which would be, I guess, the 19th. It would be
yeah.
the first meeting in
Second.
February,
The second, yeah.
the 2nd, okay.
We don't
Um,
have anything else on the agenda right now for the second, do we?
Just rice. Just
The Rice public
rice
hearing.
plumbing.
Oh, rice.
Yeah.
So
Right.
February 2nd is the next meeting, right?
Yes.
Well, it would be the next meeting at which it would be a potential to hold a public hearing.
Okay, and the submission requirement would be 2 weeks prior to that, right? Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that would be on the 19th. We may be able to do that.
Well, I guess the question, I guess, to the rest of the board is, are we comfortable moving forward with the public hearing without having the SWIP completed?
Well, don't forget, this is not our public hearing. This is just a secret public hearing. So we'll need all that information before we do our Town of Olive Planning Board public hearing, okay?
Right.
The only other consideration I would layer in there would be, I'd like to have, and maybe we take the 19th meeting to do this, but a working session with CT Mail, right? I mean, there's a reason, right? I mean, I'd like to get their perspective on everything, timeline, the things we've discussed here, right?
Yeah, no, I agree. So if we do that, I guess we could set it as tentative and we would potentially firm it up, go or no go at the meeting on the 19th.
The only thing is that I think with the 14-day provision, it'll probably push us to the next meeting in February. I think.
Well,
Yeah.
maybe we should just do that to be safe.
You're all in February.
So that would be the 16th.
16th, the second and the 16th.
Yep. Well, if the first is, the first is the second, and
Right.
plus 2 weeks. So
I mean, I just want to give CTML an opportunity, right, to digest.
No,
the material.
that's good.
Yeah, I agree. I think they should have,
Now, will they be with us on the second?
That's-
CT Mail?
I think we're looking to try to get CT Mail
On the 19th.
on the 19th of January.
Oh, okay. All right.
that'll give them a little bit of time to look things over, and then we can at least start the dialogue.
Okay.
And presumably we'd be in on the 2nd, maybe again too, if that's all right with the board. And that way CT Mail will have more of a chance to review.
Yeah.
too.
And again, I think, Barry, based upon your question, we don't have any reservations about you reaching out to CT Mail. I mean, they're working on behalf of, everyone.
I have a question. Do you prefer that Barry sends CT Mail a full package of our maps?
Yeah.
I would probably prefer that he submit the packet.
Yeah, that's fine. We can
Okay,
get
Barry?
Now, who was asking that question? Was that Mike?
George.
No, George Seifried.
That
Okay.
was the applicant.
I think Barry asked if the board had a contact at CT Mail.
Yeah, we'll get that to him.
Okay, thank you.
Well, then maybe the matter should be scheduled on the regular meeting for the next meeting so that the board can officially vote if it wants to put the public hearing on for the second meeting in February, and there'll be plenty of time to get the notice in the paper.
It sounds like a good plan.
Yeah, so shall I make a motion that we reserve the 19th as a working session with CT Mail, provided they can
Yes.
be with us?
Yes, absolutely. Great idea.
And then if I heard you, Mr. Bacon, right, based on their feedback, then we would reserve that meeting on the 2nd. Correct? Is that what you were?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, but also that on the 19th, then the board could vote and say that they want to have the secret public hearing for the second meeting in February, so there's enough time to get it in the paper.
on the 16th. So we won't make a firm decision on the 16th until the next meeting.
Got it. So I'll make a motion that on Tuesday, the 19th, we reserve that meeting for a working session to discuss 20 sub 10 Sailor Mill, and it's really to collaborate with CT Mail, our hired consultant, to validate that they're up to speed and to begin giving us guidance towards the public hearing on the February, whatever date that was.
Second and the 16th.
Yeah.
16th. So will someone second that?
I second.
Aye.
Aye,
Favor?
aye.
Aye.
We've all seconded it.
Any opposed? Anyone opposed? Okay.
But we also have Rice on the 19th, right, Janelle?
No.
Rice has a public hearing on February 2nd.
On February 2nd. Okay,
Right, so
sorry.
as of right now, based on that motion, we're going to box out any clients from that agenda.
Okay,
From the 19th.
on the 19th, right?
Red Alone wasn't expecting to be on the 19th, were they?
Well,
Any reason?
that was my next discussion. I mean,
We can only do so much.
did anybody have the opportunity, because I know that they were looking to have a conversation with one of the chair people.
I spoke with Robert Leibowitz, and he is reviewing it actually tomorrow night at the county board, and he will provide us feedback.
Okay.
So if I understand, all right, we need county advisory opinion on this? Or that's something else you're talking about?
We're talking
There's
about
something else.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
apology.
Talking about the Bread Alone application.
So yes, they were looking to be on as soon as they could be on, so, but it had to wait.
This is not a just-in-time operation. We do not have unlimited capacity.
Yeah. So
They have to quadruple our pay.
It's 9:35 already, so.
And I will make this, I mean, in all seriousness, you know, the public as well as the applicants regarding Sailor Mill have been more than patient during many meetings, and this is very important given the expense, the investment they've made, and you know, the CT Mail, right? We have to bring them up to speed. This is a very sensitive project.
Thank you.
Not to say Bread Alone's not important, but there's only so much capacity. So is there anything else, Mr. Bacon, Mr. Moriello?
No, I'm fine, Mr.
I
Chairman.
think that covers.
Mr. Dunn, Mr.
Happy New Year to everybody again.
Happy New Year.
Thank you, guys.
Happy New Year.
Thank you, and Happy New Year's.
Right.
Thank you. So we owe you a communication on coming out of our January 19th meeting. We will communicate, I don't know whom, more than likely Janelle. More than likely you have either spoken with CT Mail or they will probably be proactive coming out of that meeting, letting you know what the recommendation is, so on and so forth. Yes?
I need to know about CT Mail because I don't have any information on them whatsoever, who they are, what contact, anything.
I'll send that to you, Janelle.
Thank you.
Steve owns that.
And Barry.
Okay, and I will get a package ready for them. So as soon as I have that information, I can send them what the planning board already has on the application.
Great.
Thank you. And then in terms of the envelopes, I know it's a basic element, but I would recommend that we not only include the adjacent neighbors, property owners, but also the you know, the agencies that we communicated that we were taking lead agency, so that we just extend them the courtesy of being informed.
Communicating that.
Yeah, we can give you the envelopes, right, Barry, for all the involved and interested agencies, for all of them. We'll give you everything.
Thank you.
Okay, very good.
I just think that's good due diligence.
Thank you.
Agreed. Okay,
All right.
well, thank you to the board.
Happy New Year to all.
Thank you. Happy New
very
Year.
much.
Thank you
And I guess,
very much.
Thanks.
board, we just have a housekeeping item or two to take care of here.
Thank you, everyone.
All right,
Have a
good
good night.
night, everybody. I'll sign off. If I can figure it out. Anyway.
They're good, yeah.
So Tim Peck, well, we welcome you again to the board.
Thank you very much. Yes, I'm soaking it in.
Having
soaking
second
it in,
thoughts
yes.
yet?
My wife was giving me some evil eye for a moment, so yeah, but I'm enjoying it.
I'd like to say all the meetings aren't this long, but they are.
They are, yeah.
We were done at 8:15 last meeting.
I know.
You know why that? Because Dave wasn't at it.
Yeah. I wasn't gonna say it.
I'm gonna make a motion that we keep the officers the same for 2021, and then I make another motion, we adjourn after we do that.
I'll second both.
That was the last piece of business. So if we can do it that way, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, well, just in closing, sincerely, all the best to Dan Lefevre. He really was a great member, and I hope, given that we're family here now, I hope everything is okay with his wife, sincerely. So all the best to Dan. And
Thank you,
Tim,
Dan.
welcome-
Thank you,
Tim,
Dan.
welcome aboard.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you, Tim.
Nice to meet you.
Bye-bye.
I'm assuming that Dawn is going to give me information because I had no idea that Mr. Peck was even part of our board. So that's why he didn't get any notice.
I
from
was
me.
wondering, yeah.
No worries. Yeah, it moved quickly, but, Jim Safranco was communicating with Steven, and I guess Dan,
Yeah.
for circumstances was just needed to do some things. So
Tim, we didn't get your email or anything, or at least I didn't.
Okay.
Janelle will need that to get you tied into everything. So,
okay.
I don't know if you want to share it here, or give somebody a call tomorrow or whatever, but.
If you throw it in the chat, I'll email it to everybody.
Okay, yeah, let me do that.
Thanks, Dave.
All right, thanks.
New Year, everybody.
I was talking into a mute there for a bit, but I just wanted to say that the board will be sending Dan a letter of thanks for all his service.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Good.
David.
Good.
Yeah, he was good.
He's going, he and his family are going through quite a bit right now.
Yeah.
Diane's gonna have another scan on the 11th,
Oh, yeah.
And next Tuesday, I think he said, right?
on the 11th.
I'll have to keep her in our thoughts and prayers.
Do I pray for her every day? Known her for a long, long time.
Well, all right, everybody. I've been up since 4:50, so I'm gonna.
Yeah.
We're all set.
You win. You win, Heidi.
I'm
You
exhausted. I'm like, oh, I can't stay awake.
All right, have a good evening.